I always thinking that starting a test, it's a huge task, especially on the other side. It's all like over 100-year-old universities. They already have the options, looks like good enough.
We did this because we thought it would be easy. We didn't think it would be this hard. Had we known it would be this difficult, we probably wouldn't have started it.
You start this great business because of AI, but everyone now say, I can do AI. I can incorporate AI into my test. How do you prevent the others to replicate these things?
If other people want to do it that way, that's probably good for the world. For us, we just want to provide the most accurate, most accessible test.
Hello， 大家好，我们 EduKnow 今天非常荣幸的能够采访到多邻国的 CEO 创始人 Luis 先生。What was the light bulb moment when you decide Duolingo needs to create its own language test?
This was about 2014. Duolingo had grown a lot to teach languages. We started getting a lot of emails from some of the people that were learning English on Duolingo that would tell us, thank you for teaching me English. I couldn't learn English before, now I can learn it with Duolingo, but now I have a problem. Can you give me a certificate that says that I know English? We started looking into it, and what we found we thought was crazy. A few $1 billion were being spent every year by people certifying that they knew English. There were a few tests. And all of these tests were very similar. They cost about $300 US. You had to go to a testing center to take the test. You had to make an appointment several weeks in advance, and you had to wait several weeks for the results. You know, in an era where everything can be done over the internet, this seemed crazy to us. But it was even crazier because it turns out most of the people who take these tests are in poor countries. In a poor country, $300 US is 1 month's salary. So we thought, okay, we can do a lot better. So we made a test.
She is not a doctor yet.
Did the old school testing companies laugh at the O? Just curious.
They first ignored us. They thought, oh, who are these people? Then they were laughing at us, and they went around saying it is not possible to take an online test and make it secure. Funnily, they now all have versions of an online test. But at the time, they really said that. And then they started attacking us. They started attacking our credibility. They started saying, oh, the test doesn't actually measure your English skills. You can cheat on the test, etc. But of course, this is what happens whenever you have a brand new test. By now, we've really caught on. It's about the same number of tests are taken every year as the TOEFL. We're not as big as the IELTS, but we're getting there. And my sense is that within a few years, we'll be bigger than the IELTS. Of course, this is going to happen. It's a cheaper test, and it is significantly more convenient. If you want to take the test at 3 a.m. from your house, you can do it. And you don't have to make an appointment, and you get the results within 24 hours. It is just a modern way of taking tests.
Yeah, I actually talked to some of the test takers. They said they wear their pajamas.
Yes.
Lay back, relax in the environment they prefer. Often in the midnight, like after 12, when there's nobody to disturb them.
Yes, and we see that. I mean, it really matters. Test anxiety is a real thing. Imagine, not only are you anxious about taking the test, you have to go to a place that even makes you more anxious because you're not in a familiar environment. In our case, you can take it from your own bedroom. If you are a person who is smarter at night, you can take it at night. If you're a person who is smarter in the morning, you can take it in the morning. It's so much more convenient.
Yeah, I once watched a short video about a girl who basically lived with the herd of sheep, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she did so. Are you extremely proud when you see stories like this?
We're very proud of this. There are many countries where there are no testing centers, like the Democratic Republic of Congo. There are no testing centers there. But you can take it if you want to take the Duolingo English test. So we're very proud of that.
So aside from the old school testing companies laughed at you at the beginning, are there any other huge significant challenges you face when you just start the DET?
Well, when you start a new test, you have to convince universities to accept the results of your test. That's not that easy because they don't have that much of an incentive to accept the results of your test. They just said, well, we're fine with the TOEFL or the IELTS. Over time, I think they have realized that we bring something to the table, which is that we bring a much wider audience that is much more diverse. So universities really like that.
Yale's the first university, right?
The first university that started accepting our test was Yale. Yeah. Yes, which was a really good university to start accepting it. But you can see that a lot of times just universities, whenever their peer universities are accepting it, they start accepting it too. It has snowballed into getting a lot of acceptance. But at first it was hard because we had no university accepting us.
AI can write essays now. How's DET staying ahead of cheating while keeping the test convenient and affordable?
When you take the Duolingo English test, there's a whole setup you have to do to make sure that you're not cheating. You know, you sit in front of your computer, the camera turns on, So we're recording that. We now ask you to take your phone, which is separate from the computer, and place it there so that it is actually recording you, and we look at the keyboard. So for example, if somebody's telling you the answers, it takes a little longer to do them. Also, your typing patterns are different. Ambient noise, we're trying to see if there's anybody actually trying to whisper something at you. Also, your eye movements are different if somebody's telling you the answer versus if you're actually trying to think. So the computer looks at all of this, and it is very accurate.
So in terms of like human behavior nature, you also use AI to detect everything.
The recording of when you're taking a test is analyzed both by a human proctor and AI. I should say the most common way in which people cheat, not on our test, but in the other tests, is by paying the proctor. You can't do that type of cheating in our test. You cannot do bribery. No, it's not our intention to prevent anybody from doing things, but our test from the beginning, since 2014, our test was entirely based on AI. All the questions were generated by AI. The test is graded by AI. The security is AI. The other thing is, if you're going to take an online test, the TOEFL at the time was about 3 to 4 hours long. In particular, because in many places, having an internet connection for 3 to 4 hours straight is not guaranteed. So we wanted to make a test that was going to be under 1 hour. The way we did that was with AI. AI adapts to your difficulty very, very quickly. Whenever you do the first question, if you get it right, the questions get harder. If you get it wrong, the questions get easier. But it adapts very quickly. Because of that, the test is shorter. The tests they're talking about AI. We're AI native.
Last two questions is about some of your thoughts, because you are a computer science student from Carnegie Mellon, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of saying that because of AI, the CS student will have no bright future as they did before. What's your thought?
It's true that AI is getting better and better at computer programming, but you still need to know the fundamentals to be able to actually do anything with it. If you take somebody that knows no programming and tell them use AI to make a program, they can't do it. My guess is that over the next 5 to 10 years, we will still need software engineers. It's very hard to say what will happen in 50 years. In 50 years, it may not just be software engineers. Who knows? Who knows what will happen? But I am not particularly worried in the medium term.
So, as a successful entrepreneur, do you have anything to say to the Chinese parents who are eager to send their kids to study abroad and who wish their kids to be successful in the future?
I did not grow up in the United States. I went to study in the United States. It's the best decision I've ever made. It really breeds entrepreneurship. The whole education system, everything. So I would encourage them to actually send their kids to study to one of these universities. They're excellent. The other thing that I have seen, and this is particular for Chinese parents, maybe Asian parents, not just kids that go to study to university, but also the kids that work at Duolingo. Their parents are very risk averse. They want safe success. The problem with safe success is that it will never be great success. For example, when we were a very tiny company, very few Chinese students applied for Duolingo. If you want to make $1 billion, you're going to have to take some risks. I'm also very risk averse, by the way.
That's really interesting, because in my mind, you must love to take risk. Otherwise, you won't even start this journey, right?
I did take some risks. For example, I used to be a professor at Carnegie Mellon and I left and I started this company. But I'm not some entrepreneurs that drop out of college. I would have never done that. I take some risks, but I'm not extremely risky. You're probably going to see much more innovation on the English test. So for example, you'll be able to take it from your mobile phone as opposed to from a computer. Turns out most of the world doesn't have access to a laptop computer, but they do have access to an Android phone. So we want to deliver the test from a phone too. I don't know how long that'll take, but we're going to do something like that.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I look forward to seeing that.
It will never be the case that Duolingo is a $10 billion company. Now it's like a much higher than $10 billion company. We never thought that even 3 years ago. It keeps growing. And I think not just me, but everybody in the executive team at Duolingo, we're just trying to make a really good company in terms of a really good product for our users and a really great place to work. I think if we concentrate on that, good things will happen, but we don't really know what's going to happen.
今天我们和多邻国的 CEO 和创始人 Luis 进行了一场非常有营养的对话，尤其是其中的一些片段，我觉得回味无穷。那再次谢谢 Luis， 也非常谢谢我们的观众。那今天就这样，拜拜。
Really went from no Chinese students to mostly Chinese students because it's a safe company now, but before it was not a safe company.